January is the Sanctity of Human Life Month, and there has been a lot of renewed attention on the life issue here in Washington, starting with President Trump's comments last week on the Hyde Amendment, saying we need to be a little flexible. Republicans need to take up yoga so they can be flexible on this issue. Well, today the Senate committee had a hearing on the abortion drug, and following that, a press conference that the Family Research Council organized. With me now are the managing editor for the broadcast, Casey Harper, and editorial director and senior writer for the Washington Stand, Suzanne Bowdey. Casey, Suzanne, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, you guys flexible?
Very.
Can we talk about whatever? All right. In fact, let me just start with that President Trump's clip. Number 5, play that, please.
Now, you have to be a little flexible on Hyde. You know that. You got to be a little flexible. You got to work something. You got to use ingenuity. You got to work. We're all big fans of everything, but you got to be flexible. You have to have flexibility.
You know, I've been around the president a lot, and you can tell he that was not normal. Mm-hmm. And this call for, I think he was uncomfortable when that group calling them to be flexible on Hyde when the Republican Party has staked out this territory for nearly 50 years.
He sounded uncomfortable, and he should. And honestly, I mean, you've talked about this on the show so much this week that, you know, he's not a career politician. He doesn't understand the Republican Party and its history on abortion. And I will say, you know, despite all the heartburn he's caused and how distressing that comment is, I actually think it has served an important purpose, which is that it has rallied Republicans together on an issue that we've seen mixed messages and hesitance from the Republican Party since Dobbs. And now they are all coming together to say, look, this is a red line for us. We will not cross it. And in some ways, I think it's a silver lining that he's done Republicans a favor, because now all of them are galvanized. You're seeing from Mike Johnson on down to just regular rank and file Republicans saying, we won't stand for this. And you're seeing the result in the White House. There are reports out this week that they're rethinking this. Some White House insiders have told the Daily Signal that they're looking for ways to walk this back. And that is because of the pressure from the Republican Party.
But I think in large part this goes back. Number one, you have a president who thinks everything is negotiable. I mean, you can, whatever it is, you can negotiate about it. There are certain things that just are non-negotiable. Secondly, I think this is what happens when you have a party that is not tethered to a platform.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a conversation I've had with the Speaker and others this week, that we have to fundamentally declare that whoever the candidates are coming up in the next presidential election, before we even have a conversation with them, that they agree that we're going to go back to a platform that states the party priorities, and it includes the sanctity of human life.
Right. I think we're going to have an opportunity for that, because we're just a few years out from a post-Trump America. We've been embroiled in the Trump era since 2015 when he came down that golden escalator, and I don't think we even really know what it's going to look like. But we have people like Vance or Rubio, others, you know, rising to the surface. But whoever comes after Trump is going to set a new precedent, a new tone for what does it look like to be president after him.
Well, I think it's going to be incumbent upon those outside of the candidate circle to define what they want that to look like. Because I think this is always the danger, that when a party makes a fundamental change, this is the argument we're making over Hyde, if you ever just allow it one time,
it won't be one time.
It won't be one time. And so we have to be very clear that this is not going to happen. We are not going to go down the path of the candidate any longer defining what the party stands for. The party is going to have its own identity, and you're going to have to come into somewhat of alignment. Every candidate's their own candidate, and they have their own platforms and their own priorities. But the party is enduring beyond, one administration to the next, one candidate. The party is not about a candidate. Yes, it's about getting candidates elected, but it's also about attracting people to ideology that has long-term implications for the country.
And remember that the Republican Party was started on a value for life, to end slavery. I mean, this is a founding principle of the Republican Party.
Right.
And what is a party if there are no guiding principles that are uniting everyone and tethering everyone to the same values? It's not a party anymore.
Right. Well, and you can't have it where the candidate gets the ability to wake up one morning and define what the party is. I'm not going to be a part of something like that.
Right.
You know, and I think this is where, going back to your point, Suzanne, where the president, you know, relatively new to all of this, doesn't fully appreciate, and he doesn't know it, first off, because he wasn't here, but he's not surrounded himself at the highest level of this administration with those who can inform him or speak to this issue. But I don't think he fully understands the Republican Party, the ranks of the party are filled with those who came to the party over these value issues, and that's what their alignment is. It's not to a party, it's not to a politician, but it is to a set of principles.
And this is an 83% issue for Republicans. Right. I mean, if you go back and ask, even Democrats over the long history of the last 50 years and before that have seen the value of keeping taxpayers who find abortion morally unconscionable out of funding it. In no way is that a position that anyone should support on either side. Right. I mean, this used to be bipartisan. The fact that it's not now speaks volumes about the Democratic Party, in my opinion.
Well, we've got one party that wants to force taxpayers into the abortion business. We don't need two.
No.
I want to go to another abortion-related topic. We talked about it with the chair of the HELP Committee, Bill Cassidy, earlier in the program, hearing on mifepristone. I want to play one clip from that hearing today. It was Senator Josh Hawley, who was actually also a part of our press conference. Play clip number 6.
Let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. So, can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding. This is about science and evidence.
How are we ever going to get to I mean, this is crazy. We have, and this is not the only, I mean, we see this repeatedly now, where you have individuals who cannot even define gender or male and female.
And why would you trust the Democratic Party to know what's good for a woman if they can't define what it is? This completely undermines their credibility on everything from health care to abortion. I mean, just 4 years ago, we had Ketanji Brown Jackson say, well, I can't define a woman, I'm not a biologist. This woman was a biologist. She was a medical doctor who studied anatomy and physiology. So honestly, she's done Republicans a favor. I mean, the political ads here write themselves. They're in a tough election in the midterms, and Republicans can push play on this and remind Americans how extreme the Democratic Party is.
But the Republicans need their voters to show up. And that's why these issues matter. And this was a point we made at the press conference that we organized with Lindsey Graham over mifepristone, the abortion drug. So very quickly, I know I've talked about this a lot, but here's the deal. During COVID, and well, actually right after the overturn of Roe v. Wade, the institution of the enactment of Dobbs, you had the Biden administration, remember the whole of government approach to trying to protect abortion, and so they were looking for all these ways they could protect abortion, so they changed the RIMS, the protocol over the drug mifepristone, allowing it to be issued without an in-person consultation. They suspended the enforcement of Comstock, which means which prohibited the mailing of abortion pills through the mail. That was done away with during the Biden administration. Trump administration comes in, they get rid of all of the Biden-era policies except this. There might be a couple of others, but this is the primary one. They haven't touched it. It's still in place. And so abortion numbers have risen in the country, and those states who the Supreme Court said you have every right to protect the unborn with comprehensive laws in your state, all of those laws are being undermined. That was the point of the press conference. If the political, well, I'm just going to say this. If the president doesn't care about the life issue, he should care about the political aspects of this, because if it suppresses the pro-life turnout in the midterm elections, Republicans lose. All right.
Well, you also made a great point about the president's narco-terrorism take. You should fill our listeners in on that.
Well, I mean, it actually came to me in the middle of the press conference. I mean, we had attorneys general there who were saying, look, we're trying to keep these deadly drugs out of our state, allow us to enforce the law. And I thought, well, Isn't that what happened in Venezuela? We're blowing up boats that are bringing in deadly drugs into the country. I mean, they're not coming into our states in boats. They're coming in through the U.S. mail. But this is, the president wants to arrest Maduro for sending deadly drugs into our country. What we need, and this is what the Attorney General from Louisiana, Liz Murrill, was asking for, was the ability to the shield laws that California and New York are putting in place that prohibit states like Louisiana, who've indicted those doctors for sending these deadly drugs in. They're being shielded. They're being protected. Well, we need a Maduro law that allows these states to arrest those doctors who have violated the law and have killed innocent children, babies in the womb, and put mothers in the emergency room. If there is a crisis in Venezuela that allows the president to blow up boats, we ought to have something here to keep these abortion drugs from coming into countries, coming into states, killing babies, and putting women in emergency rooms.
Preach.
Plenty. I mean, we're talking thousands, millions of babies long term will be killed by these pills. It's not a small thing.
It's 70% of abortions now are coming through the abortion.
And I would also make the point, which Chuck Donovan did on your recent podcast, which is this policy that he has is actually more radical than Biden in that we have now approved a generic, cheaper version of this drug, which will actually explode the access and use of this pill. So it's actually worse than Biden.
And that was approved after the FDA announced that they were doing a review of the safety of this, but they went ahead and they approved
so
a
they're
new
making
generic
it easier for women to get and cheaper for women to get under Trump, a supposedly pro-life president.
Yeah. That's why when Hyde came up, a lot of pro-lifers said, all right, enough is enough. We've had delay on revoking mifepristone, then we had a generic, and now we have this. And I think to your earlier point about the political implications, I think a president who himself admits that he may not make it into heaven, who has not been an evangelical in any sense, a New Yorker with a kind of checkered past, how did he get millions of evangelicals to show up in the election and vote for him? It was this issue.
So here's what I think we need to do. I mean, we need to be praying about this. We need to be praying for the president that he makes the right decisions and that those coming around him. I think it would actually be a lot worse if we didn't have the House Speaker and some others who do have the ability to speak to him, but he's walled off a lot of those voices in this administration. So we need to pray for him. We need to pray that he would make the right decisions on this, but we also have to take action. And so, folks, I would encourage you to text the word LIFE to 67742. That's LIFE to 67742 and sign the petition and talk to your members of Congress and let them know that this is an important issue and it's a voting issue. This is one of those issues that you vote on. Now, people say, what are they going to do? Go vote for the other side? No, they're not going to go vote.
They'll stay home.
Barack Obama figured out something that only Donald Trump then figured out on the Republican side. Elections in this century are base elections. There's not this mysterious middle of all these voters that are just waiting to decide how to vote. There are some, but they, in large part, are driven by the motivation of the base, either the left or the right. And so base elections, it's motivated to support your candidate and turn out and vote. All right, Suzanne, I ate up all the time. You 30 seconds.
No, you're right.
Are you a woman, Suzanne? Are you sure? Yeah.
Well, apparently I need to have a scientific degree, and even then I won't know. So, you're right. We need to pray, but we also need to thank those people who are standing courageously for life. And there are a lot of them right now who are saying the right things and who are acting on it.
And let them know that.
Yeah.
Email them, call them, talk them, thank them. The speaker's been doing that. Others have been doing that. Thank them. Casey.
I agree.
Last word.
I agree. Stand firm. I heard once. Stand firm on this somewhere. I can't recall where, but it seems really important.
There's a lot of stands around here. The Washington stand. Stand on the word.
That's right.
And yet we're sitting.
We are.
But I'm standing on the inside.
Amen. Amen.
Casey, Suzanne, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.